Hello everyone, welcome back to Talking History. My name's Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today. On this channel I do exactly as it's called. I talk all about history, and at the moment we are well in the Anglo-Saxon period and we are so near to the Battle of Hastings, but we've got a few more videos to go yet before I even try to attempt the Battle of Hastings. I may do that over a few videos actually, just because there was so much that went on. Anyway, last week's video I covered all about Ethelred the Unready and his battle with the Vikings and paying Danegeld. This week's video is the first Viking King of England. Step aside, William the Conqueror, I'm not ready for you yet. Today's video, Sweyn Forkbeard. Sweyn Forkbeard, who is pretty much an unknown King of England. He was the first Viking King of England and he only reigned for 5 weeks. Sweyn Forkbeard known due to his long cleft beard, he was born to Harold Bluetooth, King of Denmark, and he was born around 960. The identity of Sweyn's mother isn't known with certainty. It's possible that he was Harold's illegitimate son born to Asa, although it's more likely that he was born to Queen Gunhild. Sweyn would soon become a popular Viking warrior, more popular than his father. I don't think his father was very well liked. I don't think. I could be wrong. He was a violent warrior whose first taste of violence was a campaign against his own father. Sweyn had allied with the famous Viking Palnatoke. I think I pronounced that right. You know me and my pronunciations. We don't get along. In 986, Sweyn and Palnatoke had attacked Harold Bluetooth and he was killed. Sweyn had succeeded his father as the King of Denmark in 986. Then in the early 990s, Sweyn had turned his attention to England, possibly in an attempt to conquer the mostly Christian England and to gain favour with the English Church. Harold Bluetooth was one of the first Viking kings to convert to Christianity, and Sweyn had been christened, but Sweyn has been depicted as a rebellious pagan who persecuted Christians. Another, when I was doing the research, another thing that kept popping up was that Sweyn was hearing about all the other Vikings going over, like Olaf Tryggvason going over to England and basically getting money. And he's like, well, I want a bit of that. So he too went over. That's another bit I found, but I don't know if I personally agree with that one. But listen to the video and see what you make up of it. So Sweyn had led a large Viking fleet to the English shores, which he had failed in an attempt to capture London. Although Sweyn's attempt to occupy England at this time hadn't gone the way he had hoped, he had managed to blackmail King Ethelred into paying retribution. And Ethelred paid Sweyn to leave England and return to Denmark, just like Ethelred had done to all the previous Vikings, and Sweyn left after he received his Danegeld. It was during Sweyn's absence from Denmark that led to Erik Cecil, who was the King of Sweden, to take advantage of the fact that Sweyn wasn't in Denmark. Erik Cecil had took over Denmark. He occupied Denmark. And then in 994, Sweyn recovered Denmark after Erik Cecil's death. I'm not quite sure what happened in between there. I don't know if there was any fights. I don't know. I couldn't find anything, and it's so frustrating. In the year 1000, Sweyn would join alliances with Sweden at the Battle of Svolder, where King Olaf I of Tryggvason of Norway was defeated and he was killed, and this had divided the kingdom. Sweyn was married twice. Firstly he was married to Gunhilda, daughter of Duke of Poland, where they had two sons, Harold and Knut. Sweyn's second marriage was to Sigrid, who had previously received a proposal from Olaf Tryggvason, and when she refused Olaf's proposal, Olaf had reportedly angrily struck Sigrid in the face. And Sigrid's response to Olaf was, "This may some day be thy death." It was after her marriage to Sweyn that Sigrid had played an instrumental part in creating a coalition of Olaf's enemies and bringing about his downfall. After the defeat of Olaf, Sweyn had become the virtual ruler of Norway, although he shared sovereignty with his allies. In November the 13th, 1002, on St. Brice's Day, King Ethelred had ordered the massacre of all the Danes in England. This included men, women and children. Two of these Danes killed were Sweyn's sister, Gunhild, and brother-in-law. In an oath to seek revenge, Sweyn landed in England in 1003, where he and his men ravaged the south country. Northumbria had surrendered to Sweyn. One thing to remember, all about going through the Anglo-Saxon period, Northumbria was constantly the first one to surrender. Always. There was always the first one to go. That was the main part. York was the main one apart from London. So Sweyn, from there he continued with his forces to Winchester, and he then went on to London. The Londoners had put up such a strong resistance that Sweyn left, going on to Bath, where they had submitted to him, and after fearing of their downfall and the fear of an awful revenge if they didn't forfeit to Sweyn, London submitted. King Ethelred, having fled firstly to the Isle of Wight, then on to Normandy, where he joined his wife Emma and children. This then allowed Sweyn to be declared King of England on Christmas Day in 1013. Sweyn had no dynastic right to the English throne at all. He claimed it through the right of conquest. Many English provinces had refused to acknowledge Sweyn as their rightful king, as he was never formally crowned. Sweyn was England's king for only 5 weeks. Sweyn died suddenly on the 3rd of February in 1014. It's possibly from a hemorrhage or a stroke. Sweyn Forkbeard was around 54 years old, and there was a legend, I absolutely love this, there was a legend that later said Sweyn was murdered in his sleep by Saint Edmund, who himself had been murdered by Vikings in the 9th century. It is said that Edmund had returned from the grave in the dead of night during Candlemas and killed Sweyn with a spear. Sweyn was buried in England, however his remains were later moved to Roskilde. I think I probably pronounced that completely wrong. I do apologise, I really do apologise. Cathedral in Denmark. Sweyn's sons, Canute, had been driven out of the country after Ethelred was reinstated as king. Sweyn's second son, Harold, become Harold II, had succeeded him as King of Denmark. Sweyn's legacy has lasted all the way through up till today. Sweyn's descendants through his daughter Estrid with Sigrid continue to reign in Denmark today. Margaret of Denmark, a direct descendant, had married James III of Scotland in 1469, this introducing Sweyn's bloodline into the Scottish royal family. Sweyn's descendants would become monarchs in England once again in 1603, when James VI of Scotland inherited the English throne, becoming James I. How amazing is that? That's one of the reasons why I love history. It's just, I love it, love it. Sweyn has become England's forgotten king due to only reigning for 5 weeks, but Sweyn had not only established Danish monarchs in England, he also led successful military campaigns all over Europe. He changed the face of European politics for years to come through his successes and his sons' accomplishments as rulers. Archaeologists have, I'm not quite sure how long ago this was, it might have been a little while. They discovered humans' remains in Roskilde Cathedral on the site of an old wooden church that was built by Harold Bluetooth. And it could be quite possible that these unidentified skeleton could be that of Sweyn Forkbeard. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you also next week. Bye.